there, and welcome once again to the Impact Zone podcast. We are back once more to discuss more TNA wrestling shenanigans, and they updated the Turning Point card a little bit here the other day. So I better go through it. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to actually do it just as they after they announced it or whatever it was. It was just a little bit busy. It's the holiday season, so yes, sometimes things get in the way. I don't know which of these matches to talk about first, but then again, I guess we're going to talk about Steve Maclin and Josh Alexander, because this is a match that I felt like, well, we knew that this match was probably coming, or a match similar to this. I'm a little bit surprised that it's just no DQs, but I don't know. It's probably going to be all right, I guess. But I kind of feel like this won't be the end of their rivalry, because I feel like that the Northern Armory will get involved in this one. So again, it almost always feels like anyone that has some sort of faction or some sort of group, or even another individual sometimes, with them or associated with them or whatever else you want to say, you sort of start needing to go, well, you've got to keep those guys out of the match. And, well, one of the best ways to do that is steel cage of some description. And I think people want to see Lockdown come back. And I know that traditionally was, a multi-man match, but you could have it as a one-on-one match or a tag match or something. So I still feel like it's one of those things that we're hoping for or whatever. To me, it's going to be tough, in my opinion, again here, because it's like, well, Josh won the first one, which was a while back now. But realistically, in some ways, you've almost got to forget about that and just focus on the feud that they are having. And as I said, unfortunately, it just kind of feels like, well, even if you could say that, well, Maclin might get backup from EY or from Gresham or from somebody else or whatever to fend off the Northern Armory. I don't know. You could figure that in there, perhaps. We know EY's in another match on the show, so I don't know. Not completely impossible, I guess, either, but still feels a little bit like, well, again, you start saying, well, what's the payoff in the end? The thing is, you start having to look at, well, what's the payoff in the end of this? Because it's like, well, cool. Does Maclin get his his justification or whatever? That's usually the idea of a lot of these feuds. But the thing is, here, it's like, well, there's no point in, giving that to Maclin, because there's nowhere for him to really go. What's he going to do after this? That's the thing. This is continually to being some of the things that I feel like is missing. It feels like there isn't enough thought into, well, what is somebody going to do after this? Because we've got to have other credible challengers or other credible people, other things, other feuds for them to go into. And it really doesn't feel like there is that for Maclin. Josh, he could theoretically feud with just about anyone that's on the roster. To an extent, you start asking yourself, well, where can he go? Because he can't really go for the title yet. But it's one of those things, it's like, well, at least you're giving him wins and starting to build him back into that position of, potentially going for the title at some point. Which is, unless you're, again, going to turn Nick Nemeth heel, which could be happening, I don't know. But, it really does feel like there's going to be a situation soon. And between Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth, or at least Nick Nemeth in some ways turning heel at some point soon, potentially. But you know, it is what it is. We've got to wait and see that to happen. You know, so I don't know, but because if you do that, then it starts to open things up a little bit more, because like then you can start to see some like feuds with Steve Macklin and Nick Nemeth potentially, or somebody else, or perhaps you're going to put the title on to Kazarian. I don't know. Again, it seems like this. Well, not. I was about to say Feast or Fired. It was the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. It's like it is hanging there, and that is kind of a, you know, not incentive, but it's a little bit of that foreboding sort of stuff going on that might help, you know, push things along. And the thing is like, well, does Macklin need to win the title, or does Macklin do anything in being the title holder? I don't really think he does, because, like, he's great, but I think, like, everyone's just so behind Joe Hendry that it's just like, well, you know, and I think if Kaz or somebody else was to be a transitional or semi-transitional champion, then I feel like people would be okay with that, because it would lead to Joe Hendry being in the position that people want him to be in, and it would lead to, you know, more things going down the road and whatnot. So it's just one of those things, like you put the title on Hendry, then you take it off of him and give it to somebody else who you know, puts it on somebody else. It's always this way. It's always one of these things that we're always looking at, saying, well, never really talking about the person that's really holding the title that much. Like, it's always like, well, who are they giving it to? Who are they giving it to? You know, like, that's the way it goes. It's always like, well, what's next? Like, it's not so much of a focus what's now, because you've always got to be thinking, oh, well, what's next type thing. Even if it's not somebody that's going to take the title off of them, it's like, well, who's the next challenger? Who's the next challenger? You know, who's got any legitimacy? You know, who feels dangerous? Who feels like, oh yeah, the fans will buy that, or whatever? You know, even if it's a B feud or whatever, I don't know. But still, it's just one of those things you've got to be thinking about. But yeah, I just don't really see, like, I don't know. I don't really see that this feud is completely over. But then it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, well, I kind of want it to be over in some ways, because I've got kind of plans for Josh at Final Resolution, though I don't know whether that's going to, you know, like my you know, fantasy booking's obviously not going to happen, I don't think. But again, it's just fun fantasy booking, and I kind of want him to do something else, because this feud has been going on for quite a while now. And it's like, well, it's time for it to kind of maybe end, pretty much. Maybe it can end at Final Resolution. That'd be all right too. I don't think it's overstretched its welcome, but I do think it's time to start going, okay, let's wrap this up. Let's find a way to end this, really end it, not, okay. You know, and that's what I'm, I guess, not scared of, but I'm thinking of. I'm just like, I don't know whether this is the end. You know, it feels like, you know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I feel like it certainly is in some ways, but certainly isn't. But again, I kind of want Josh to go do something else, because it's like, well, time to do something else. He can feud with literally anyone that's on this roster. And the thing is, I've said before, I think Josh deserves another title run. I think he's a great heel, and I think he's a great draw for the company. But does he 1,000% need it? I don't know, because he's got even though he's lost a lot of legitimacy in just losing and losing and losing matches left, right, and center. He's won a couple of matches recently, so it's boosted up his legitimacy a little bit, even though, he's won those by hook or by crook. Yeah, I don't know. It's like he can elevate just about anyone on this roster up into that, upper card sort of level. So I think you need to start looking at finding some of those younger guys or whatever. There's no point in feuding with EY because EY's already had his time in the sun. There's a lot of people that need to move up and need to be, the next face of the company or whatever. In a lot of ways, it's like really tough because it's like, well, Josh also needs to be up there and needs to maintain a certain level. So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, anyway, we'll move on. This is an odd triple six-man tag match. I'm about to say triple threat match. I don't know. I'm losing the plot here, apparently. The Hardys and Ace Austin versus the Rascals and Kushida. Very strange in some ways. I guess, like, this is in North Carolina, I believe in Johan. Yeah, North Carolina. So, this is a homecoming of sorts for the Hardys in some way. Which, and they're defending their titles here. I don't think they're defending their titles here, are they? It's like, well, what's going on? I guess this had something to do with like Ace and Bay potentially teaming up to face the Hardys or something like that. I don't know. Something like that. And since Bay's gotten injured, well, they were like, well, we don't know what else to do. And, well, let's have this six-man tag. It's a big six-man tag between the Hardys and Austin versus the Rascals and Kushida. Like that's a pretty big match. I can just but they're not gonna let the Hardys lose this one. Obviously, I feel like because it's in North Carolina. I don't know, but yeah, like, is there any point in making the Hardys lose? I really don't think so. Even if Austin takes the pin, I don't know. Like, you start saying, you start saying, yes, is Bay coming back? And I'm assuming he's coming back at some point, but he's seriously injured, so, yeah, it sucks. That sucks, certainly, and he's got that GoFundMe, I believe, so I think he raised over $20,000 or something like that already, but, do go and support Chris Bay if you can. I will probably retweet that again, the thing there, onto the group as well at some point, if I remember. But yeah, it's easy to see that Kushida's probably taking the pin here. Because it's like, well, he's not on TV most of the time. This is probably the first time we've seen him in several months or whatever it's been. Yeah, like, is he going to stick around? Maybe. Does it really matter? I don't think so. It's just one of those things. This is the situation that he finds himself in. I feel like the Rascals is just like, well, they could have a little bit of stuff going on, I guess. But then again, this is just like, again, sort of a dream match for these guys in some ways to face the Hardys. I think Ace and Bay have sort of kind of done that-ish, but just this learning tree of like showcasing new young stars. Like, again, some people might not say that that the Rascals and that are that young anymore, but like still some people don't really know that much about them or haven't really gotten that deep into what they're all about and whatnot. So just being able to showcase them on the level of a legendary team like the Hardys in this way is kind of, yeah, that's kind of cool to sort of give them a bit of a rub, and maybe they'll, you know, do something with that. But, and maybe they'll turn them heel or something like that. But I don't know. But again, I feel like it's like just, yeah, to me, it's clear that Kushida's just taking the pin here. Not to say that it won't be a good match. I don't think. Obviously, it'll be a really good match. You've got Ace, Trey, Kushida, and Wes all being able to really fly around and pick up the pace and do some really cool stuff. You've got the Hardys, still being able to go somewhat and, sort of being able to take the match into different places and whatnot and do their own thing. My question, I guess, starts becoming like, again, as we talk with champions, like, and I wanted to go back to Marsha as well in a minute, but because I didn't really think this far through with Marsha, but who are the Hardys dropping the titles to? And I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe the same with PCO. Maybe we should start doing this with every champion. But it's always tough to say because it's always one of those things that it's like until there's something and you have something on the line and you can start reading between the lines a little bit, it's like, well, is this the right time? Where is this going? Why is this person going to be the champion? Marsha, I want to touch on her and her title run for just a minute, I guess. It starts becoming like, again, the problem of being another babyface that's going to be dominant for whatever, however long, a year or whatever. Yeah, kind of a little bit like, well, we've seen this, and Marsha's really good as a wrestler, and I don't think she's that good of, I guess, promo. But then again, she has sort of surprised me sometimes with her abilities. But and perhaps again, like, she doesn't need to be the biggest draw since, again, there's a lot of other people being big draws for the company. She just needs to be a legitimate badass bitch. So that whoever, again, beats her, it feels like a legitimately badass bitch. Like, that's the idea in some ways, So I don't know. It's just one of those positions that you start wondering, like, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about, like, what's her name, Savannah Evans there the other day, and I felt like, what's she doing? What's her feud with Ling Lee happening? What, is that still happening? What's going on? When's that going to come to a head? Or when are we going to see more on that? Or, and as I said, like, obviously, I think the Knockouts tag team title match is Ash and Heather by Elegance versus Spitfire. So, but where's their next challenger? And then where's their next challenger after that, and after that, and after that, and after that? So, unless you're going to put the titles on Ash and Heather, and then it's like, oh my god, would you stop friggin' hot potatoing these titles every few minutes? Because it's like, oh man, you can't just, you haven't got a division, so the only way you can build interest in the division is by hot potatoing the title all the goddamn time. It's like, for frick's sake, can we just, like, either demolish the whole division and start again with something else, or just, like, go in a completely different direction, please, because this is silly. Like, it's always to diminishing returns. Like, and they do good work. They always do good work. But the thing is, when people know, oh yeah, this really doesn't matter, because, like, in a few weeks' time, it'll be completely different or something else or whatever. They'll force two other teams, or force two other people together in some sort of random team of some sort to make a team, happen in the division. And it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. So we've got no cares because there's not enough, stakes or whatever, or legitimacy or anything in any of these teams really. They're not together for long enough. They're not, cohesive, um, all these things. So it's just like you need to figure out, okay, let's do something else. Let's step away from doing this. Like I've said it, probably a million times. I'm probably gonna have to say it a million times more until they freaking well do something about it. But yeah, I don't know. It's really tough. You start looking at the rest of the roster, and I don't know what else. You've got to think that there's at least a couple of other matches that are going on this card, because you can't just have 5 matches. That's a pretty short card for like a nearly 3-hour show. So yeah, there's got to be a fair bit more on this show, because all these shows are always 3 hours. At least. But yeah, you've also got to start like going, well, where is this leading? Not even just like in the next few months or whatever it is, like in 5 months, 4 months, whatever, 6 months, 8 months, a year, or whatever it is. You've got to look, okay, well, what's next week or next month? Like literally, or what's tomorrow, what's today, or whatever it is. So we might even get more matches announced today, because today is TNA Impact. Maybe I should have waited for that, because I'm sure I'm going to have to do this again at some point. So, especially since I believe it's next week that it's on. So next week will be the last update for this one, I believe. So actually, I might just do that. Since they've already announced this stuff, we might just rethink this, even though it's like I've already started doing this, just to make sure we cover as much as we can, and not have to double up or get so many freaking videos coming out. So yeah, I might just do that for now, and I'll come back once I've finished watching the show and once they've finished making said announcements, and we'll go through whatever they had else they had to announce as matches. If they haven't, then I'll just put a sort of outro on this one. Alright, I am glad that I watched this week's episode. Unfortunately, as I say, it was running. It's always running a little bit late for me, and it takes me a while to do all these things, as I say. So, because I'm, as I say, one-man operation here, and as I said, there's news that comes out all the time, and sometimes it's very difficult to follow it and report on it. And again, because like in 2 days or whatever it is, again, in another couple of days, maybe there'll be more news. So it's like, well, whatever, I'm going to have to cover that. And it's like, I'm not really a news channel per se. I just talk about TNA wrestling because I love TNA wrestling and want to talk about it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. So I hope people will give me a little bit of a break for that. I will talk about the matches that have changed stipulations or something slightly before we go too far along with the new stuff, because there's not much to say, I guess. The no DQ match between Josh Alexander and Steve Macklin, now the Northern Armory, are banned from ringside. I think that does change somewhat the outcome of this match, because I said, well, then, Macklin's probably going to just lose to the Northern Armory interference. maybe he still could, but I don't know. It's really tough. But then again, he could lose to something else or whatever. You never know, some shenanigans. But like, I feel like again, it's just time for these guys to move on. And it depends on what you're gonna do with Nick Nemeth specifically. Are you turning him heel? What's the position of some of this stuff and whatnot? Actually, the promo video that they did this week with EY and Macklin was real good. That was really interesting. So yeah, definitely check that out because that's it's starting to showcase him, I guess. So again, I feel like he's got that momentum. So feel like Macklin's starting to feel like he could win in this situation. And as I said before, Josh Alexander can elevate anyone up to that next level. And if you're gonna turn Nemeth heel, well, at least I hope you're going to, because then it'll start to make it feel like, right, well, now Santana can really face Nemeth and have a really good story, and so can Macklin, and so can Hendry, and probably so can a couple of other people as well. So, but anyway, yeah, that does change the outcome of that match. The outcome of the TNA Knockouts title match, I don't think it's changed by the 2 out of 3 falls stipulation, though I think perhaps Marsha could win 2 falls straight to send a very strong message. I still think it would be a very back and forth fight, but I feel like Marsha might just win 2 straight. But then again, you don't know. It's really tough to say, but still, just like if she wins 2 straight, it feels like, wow, Jordan is really out of the picture for now, and we'll have to move on. So yeah, but we'll have to wait and see there at that. First match I guess I want to talk about is Mike Santana versus Frankie Kazarian. I feel like this match is really setting up a feud for Santana with AJ Francis. I don't really like, because they had him have a match with Casey Navarro on Impact a couple last week or whatever it was. Like, they didn't do that for nothing. Like, sometimes these things that they plan out don't pay off because of one thing or another or whatever, or plans do change sometimes, but I feel like they're going to probably pay that off. So, and again, it's one of those things, like, perhaps they're not going to turn Nemeth heel. I don't know. It's really tough to say. Or perhaps Kazarian's winning it. I'm not sure. So I do feel like you'll have a heel at the top one way or the other. That way, when Mike Santana, comes back in a few months or whatever it is, after beating AJ Francis and after beating a couple other people or whatever else he's going to do, it feels like, hey, he's going to win against Kazarian or he's going to win against heel Nemeth, potentially. So you've got to give him more to do than just, like, existing and winning. That's good, but he's got to actually have opponents to actually, like, get in his way so that he can actually, be going to that direction rather than just getting there and then not having anything to do. But he can't beat everyone because, again, if you beat everyone, then it's like, well, who do I face after that? So, yeah, it's really tough there. But anyway, I do feel like Kazarian's probably winning this one just to maintain that Corey Shock Gauntlet thing going on that he's got. Perhaps he's even cashing it in. I don't know. We won't know till it happens. Perhaps it's happening at Final Resolution. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But it's certainly one of those things they've got to figure out when and why and how they're pulling that trigger or whatever. I think they do, but it's just like, we don't. So we've got to work it out, I guess. TNA X Division Championship match between Moose and Laredo Kid. This is basically a nothing match. I mean, it won't be a nothing match. It'll be a good match. All these matches are going to be good. But, like, there's no stakes. Like, besides the fact that the X Division title's on the line. So, I just don't see Laredo Kid winning this. Because, yes, he's on the roster. And yes, he's won matches. And yes, he's won a title in the company. But especially this early, Moose is not losing it, and I've said that a few times where I've been wrong in people losing the title, but it's just, one of those things that I feel like it's not you know, a guy like Laredo's title to take. Really, I kind of feel like Slater should win it. That's me. That's my perspective. But I don't know whether and when and where and how he might win it. So that's, up to them. Other matches that still haven't really been, confirmed yet is the Elegance pair against Spitfire. I'm sure that's happening at some point. Whether that's happening on the pre-show or on the main show, don't know. Probably going to be on the pre-show. All the Knockouts tag team matches are usually on the pre-show because, again, it's a division that, even the company's pretty much just given up on. I really feel like Savannah Evans needs more wins. I feel like she should have a match with somebody at Turning Point. Probably not Lei-Ling Lee. I feel like they should have a match later down the road. But they could do it at the tapings. And that was good that she did have a match this week, though I think they should have promoted it. Even though it was just a match against a jobber, even if it's a match against some jobber here, or even again, perhaps she does an open challenge because this is WrestleCade, and hey, there's a few other wrestling promotions in town, so why not? Let's see, what somebody else has to offer, and then give Savannah Evans some more spotlight. So yeah, I'm really interested now in Steve Macklin with that promo that EY. Oh, well, not promo, but that promo video that they did with EY and Steve, as I sort of said. So that, as I said, it makes it feel like, hey, they're investing in him a little bit. There seems to be a lot, they gave Hendry some promo time. I suppose they gave Eric Young a bit of time on TV here. They, gave Hammerstone a bit of time on TV here, I guess, as well. But, it's one of those things that it's yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know. It's I still feel like that Turkey Bowl match is still going to come out the same. So, but that's where I'm at right now. But yeah, we will wait. We will see. It's only next week. So we will have, I don't know whether we'll have one more preview of matches. It depends if they actually announce anything or whatever. They might even announce things as I'm discussing this, which is just one of those things that sometimes happens, which I absolutely hate because it's just then you've got to check to an extent. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. You never ever know, but whatever. I have looked, I have seen that they haven't put anything up as of yet. Perhaps they will later. We'll wait and see. But I won't be doing it today. And again, unfortunately, if I do miss it, even by a few minutes or an hour or two or whatever, it'll probably come up next week. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Unfortunately, a very, very busy one-man team here and all of that stuff. So, I do try my best, but I can only keep on top of so much in regards to this stuff sometimes. But yeah, guys, hope you have enjoyed this one. And yeah, we'll be back to have a final look at it if there is anything else. But if there isn't, we'll just be back for the review. So hope you will join me again then for those.